Gather round, gang, and let me tell you a story. When I was but a weanling prince, I had a subscription to a little-known underground independent game magazine called Game Informer. My grandma got me the subscription when I pre-ordered Arkham City at GameStop. Game Informer was, and despite my many efforts, still is, a total rag. But being 12 at the time, I had no understanding of concepts like good journalism and hack writing, so I was unbothered. One day, in the sweltering August summer of 2011, I received my copy of Game Informer in the mail. I immediately ran to the bathroom to read it while I sat on the toilet, as was custom. I was a weird kid. The issue, however, was different from the others. This one had what I would consider to be the coolest Game Informer cover of all time. Or, at the very least, for the remaining year in which I had the subscription. They did not need to go this hard for a cover, but they did, and I respect it. On the front was Dishonored, a game I had never even heard of. Inside, it detailed a game where you could jump across rooftops, possess rats, and assassinate people from the shadows, all set in this dreary industrial world filled to the brim with dark magic and ancient evils. And how could I not be drawn by it? Assassination was a word that I had only learned like a month prior because my buddy let me play Assassin's Creed Brotherhood on his Xbox. People don't remember it, but assassins were the shit back then. Ninjas and dirt bikes were out, man. It was all about long robes and stabbing people. I remember looking at that cover and thinking to myself, wow, I'm definitely not going to be allowed to play this. Fast forward a couple years to when I was finally allowed to play it, I was amazed. I had bought it for about $1 because my local Blockbuster got liquidated. I was incredibly sad, but I was able to vent my frustrations on innocent digital guardsmen, and for that, I will always be thankful. Dishonored is a stealth action immersive sim a la games like Thief and Deus Ex, developed by Arcane Studios, one of my personal favorite development companies as long as you ignore Redfall, which isn't hard considering the fact that I actually forgot about Redfall until I started writing the script for this video. Also, real quick, I'm gonna be going into this retrospective with the assumption that you've already played this game. It has been out for over half my lifespan at this point, so if you're unfamiliar of the world of Dishonored and want to play it spoiler-free, I won't be mad if you close the video now. It's okay, go play it for yourself. No, I mean it. It's a great game. If you came for a review, that's it. There you go. Great game, one of the best. Go play it.
Is this it, priest? The Pope's new army? A few crusty bitches and a handful of ragtags?
In Dishonored, you are Corvo Itano, the only attractive man in the entire Empire of the Isles. As such, you are the royal protector and personal boy toy of the Empress, Jessamine Caldwin, as well as her daughter, Emily Caldwin. She's also your daughter, scandalous. You have just returned to the capital city of Dunwall after a months-long search for aid for the rat plague currently afflicting the city. As a rat myself, I find the depiction of my people as bloodthirsty, disease-ridden vermin to be problematic. But it's really cool, so I'm letting it slide. Just as you return, the dear Empress suffers a fatal heart attack via sword, and Emily is kidnapped. The guys, who are very obviously in on the plot, pin the Empress's death on you, and you are sentenced to death. Just before your day of execution, after 6 long months of torture, you manage to escape thanks to the help of the Loyalists, a group of dissenters led by a PTSD-addled sailor, an inbred noble, and a Catholic priest. Truly, these are the most reliable men to save the Empire. I'm sure they will never betray you. This is also when you meet the best character in the game and the love of my life, Samuel Beechworth, the best character. Dishonored 2 was not as good solely because it did not have this man. I will die on this hill. That night, you awaken in a vast, endless expanse known only as the Void, where you encounter the Outsider, a creepy, godlike 15-year-old who thinks it would be really funny to give you superpowers. So he does just that. He gives you your dead girlfriend's heart, tells you he will be watching you with great interest, says he forgot to buy some milk, and dips. Armed with only your wits, the backing of a totally loyal loyalist conspiracy, a dope-ass sword, and incredibly powerful black magic, it falls on you to take down the usurpers who falsely imprisoned you, rescue Emily, and restore her to the throne of Dunwall. Will you use your newfound power to do the right thing and restore order to a city lost to its own madness? Or throw it deeper into the vortex of chaos it so quickly seems to be spiraling into? The choice is yours. Over the course of the game, you'll meet an interesting cast of characters, from the geriatric, absolutely psychotic Granny Rags, who at one point asks you to taint the local medicine supply with plague-infested rat guts, mostly for the shits and giggles, to the lovable inventor Piero Joplin, who supplies you with all of the weapons and upgrades to your arsenal, and also occasionally spies on the help when she's in the bath. Absolutely despicable, man. I would never stoop so low as to... Dishonored is all about player freedom. There is no one way to play correctly. Do you want to be a silent assassin, stalking from the shadows and leaving no trace? Or would you rather be a rushing whirlwind of death, leaving nothing but destruction in your wake? For this review, I did 2 playthroughs. One pacifist, where I didn't kill anyone, and one genocide, where I killed everyone. And I mean everyone. And I chose every evil option. The world of Dishonored is designed with every possible playstyle in mind, not only valid, but encouraged. In one playthrough, you might choose to stick to rooftops, blinking from one spot to the next in an effort to not be seen. In another, you may choose simply to carpet bomb the local populace until the path before you is clear, freeze time, and generously distribute crossbow bolts to the general populace. Or you can also not kill people, if that's your thing. Stealth is pretty standard. Sneak around, try not to be seen or heard, and thank the outsider that nobody in Dunwall has the common sense to turn their necks more than 45 degrees in any direction. The big difference here is the number of options you have to sneak around, and there's more than one way to get to where you want to be. If there's an obstacle in your way, either disable it or find an alternative path. Maybe there's an electrical barrier that fries anything in front of it. You can disable the power source, or better yet, rewire it to ignore you and zap everyone else. Then sit and watch as they walk right into it, like moths to a flame. If you're not fun at parties, you can also choose the non-lethal path. Your options for not killing people are a lot more limited, and the game tends to play more like a traditional stealth game in this respect. Stick to the shadows, try not to raise alarms, and strangle every person that enters your vicinity. Chuck them all in the nearest dumpster and keep moving. Direct combat in Dishonored is what we in the industry would call, it's pretty good. While you are far more powerful than any singular enemy in the game, fights are almost never one-on-one. You can take a single guardsman in a sword fight without much trouble, but enemies are rarely alone. Because of this, it's best to play to your strengths. Use your powers to even the odds. Personally, I find the stealth aspects of the game to be much more entertaining than just straight up fighting everyone you see, but the option is there. As you play, the world around you will notice your decisions and act accordingly. More corpses means more rats, and more rats mean more plague. If you've been senselessly slaughtering people, expect there to be more plague victims wandering the streets, and for certain characters to look at you a little bit differently.
You could be the worst of us.
Let's be real though, this is all stuff you already know. Even my arthritic grandmother has killed the High Overseer at this point, so let's talk about something a little more interesting.
Oh, you got a murderous rage in you, and I like it.
The world of Dishonored is an inherently bleak one. There's an underlying sickness to the society of Dunwall, and I'm not just talking about the rat plague. It's not something you might necessarily pick up on if you don't pay attention, but it's there all the same. The issues that Dunwall faces go deeper than the ones the game has you deal with. And even in the best ending possible, it's not something that gets fixed. It's not something that even can be fixed. The world of Dishonored is doomed, not just from the plague, which does get cured in the good ending, but by its very own existence. The universe itself is heavily implied to be reaching the end of its lifespan. The void, a vast expanse of nothingness where nothing can escape and where nothing can live, is fated to one day consume the world. Someday this place will devour all the lights in the sky. It also happens to be where you draw your power from. Every time you blink, every time you stop time, you are exposing the world to the void, and inching it closer and closer to its ultimate fate. Don't feel too bad though, because compared to what you're doing, Dunwall is doing much more damage. I've heard the world of Dishonored described as whale punk, and that's probably the closest descriptor I can think of. You see, Dunwall and the world around it is currently undergoing a sort of industrial revolution. But instead of massive factories filled with hard-working children getting their arms stuck in the machinery like the mischievous little devils they are, society runs on whale oil. Whales in the world of the Isles aren't like those of our world. They're inherently magical beings with a deep connection to the void. When you travel through the void, the whales are there, floating in the sky. In a way, whales are the closest thing to angels in this world, and Dunwall is using them to fuel the city. It would be like using cherubs to fuel your Volvo. There's something so incredibly dark about it all that it's almost comedic. In the game, you receive the heart, which gives you insight to the world around you. One of the most chilling lines in the game comes directly from the heart.
When the last of life is gone, darkness will fall.
A great age is ending, and humanity will be the cause of it. It's a real good thing that isn't happening in real life, right guys? By the end of the game, nothing is done to fix this. In fact, it's shown that humans are getting better and better at the art of keeping the whales alive long enough to maximize the amount of oil they produce. Not even the main character seems to really care. In fact, the only character that shows any sort of care for the whales is Dowd, the man who killed the Empress. In the DLC where you play as him, you're given the chance to put a whale being used for its oil out of its misery. What does it say about this society that the only person that seems to care about the killing of the whales is objectively one of the most evil? At the end of the main story, at least in the good ending, Emily is restored to the throne and the rat plague is cured, but nothing is done about the real doom that faces the city. You've just deposed one monarch that doesn't care for another. You haven't saved the world, you've at best bought it more time. There's so much to say about the world and characters of Dishonored that I just kind of feel my mind racing whenever I think about it. So, here's a short list of some of the things I especially love. I love the Overseers. They're creepy, they're incredibly dogmatic, and if you read up on how someone becomes an Overseer, they're just horrible. But what I love most about them is that, objectively, they're correct. The Overseers are the only depiction of an actively maltheistic order I can think of. They don't worship anything. They believe in the outsider, they just hate his guts. And with good reason. The Void is chaos. It's the ultimate death of the universe. And the Overseers are just people deeply aware of this fact. Their ideology isn't what makes them evil, it's their methods. They burn people at the stake on the off chance that they might be worshipping the outsider. On the surface level, they're presented as an overzealous evil force. And they are, but they're evil trying to fight evil. I love the outsider, just as a character. The idea of a supreme godlike being with unlimited power, completely detached from the world itself, isn't a new concept. But, by God, is it not a cool one. The outsider doesn't really care for much of anything. He's an observer. The only thing he truly cares about is spectacle. To him, Dunwall is basically a TV show that he gets to influence. He doesn't give you power because he thinks you'll do something great with it. He does it because he thinks it'll be interesting to watch. It's like giving a kid in the sandbox a bulldozer. Maybe he'll use it for good. Maybe he won't, but no matter what, it's gonna be funny. I love Samuel, who acts as a sort of moral guide throughout the game. When you play non-lethally, he's your best friend. And when you're a murderous psychopath, he hates your guts.
I've seen a lot traveling with you. Now get off my boat.
There's something about his very simple, down-to-earth, and always humble nature that really gets me. He's kind of like Davos Seaworth from Game of Thrones, a salt-of-the-earth type who nonetheless manages to speak more wisely than the people around him. Now that I think about it, Seaworth and Beechworth are oddly similar names.
Maybe it's not my place to say, but men of the faith shouldn't live like barons.
I love the heart. It mainly serves as a way of finding upgrade materials, but it serves a narrative purpose as well. It gives the player insight to the city as a whole. Point it at someone, and the heart will reveal their secrets.
The pain in his head drives him to do unspeakable things.
There's so much you can learn about the city just by listening to what the heart has to say. It might even give hints towards things the player isn't yet aware of.
We have both been here before.
It also helps that the heart has some of the best writing in the whole series.
Samuel Beechworth went to sea to forget a hopeless love. He succeeded.
It does so much to immerse the player for one tiny little object. It's actually kind of brilliant.
I am not alive, nor have I received the gift of death.
I love how much the world can change based on how you play. There's so many little details that you won't even notice unless you're really looking for them. In a high chaos run, Havelock and Pendleton have an argument right before they poison you that they wouldn't have in a low chaos one. Later, just before entering Dowd's boss fight, you can very quickly take out the guard that comes to warn him of your approach, which means that Dowd won't be on guard when you enter. There are new things to discover in this game each and every time you play. I've beaten this game at least 6 times to the best of my memory, and I discover new things every single playthrough. New pathways, new encounters, new enemies. It's really impressive just how much content the devs managed to stuff into this relatively small game.
This is a wound. The stomach will bleed and bleed. This is a kill. This is a kill. Main artery. This is a kill.
I said in my Pacific Drive review that realism is a graphical style that is always fated for obsolescence. What looks realistic in one generation will look ugly by the next, which is why I absolutely love the visuals of Dishonored. If I took a random screenshot from this game, slapped a filter on it, and told you it was an 18th century oil painting, you'd probably believe me. There's so much texture and detail to the world, down to the dirtiest little alleyway that gives it so much life. Other games that came out the exact same year and with much higher budgets feel so much more soulless by comparison. The little posters and bits of graffiti you find make the world of Dishonored feel like a place where other people have lived for entire lifetimes. Every corner of the world feels like a place someone has been and touched in some way. The atmosphere of Dunwall is something that I don't think can ever be replicated. Not even the sequel got it right. Dunwall is oppressive. It's dark and moody, even in the daytime. There's an almost violent haze over everything, like even the buildings themselves are being choked by the plague. Massive, towering buildings and structures surround you at all times. It makes the player always aware of just how small they really are. It makes the moments in which you overcome the oppression even more impactful. When you succeed in a mission, you're not just defeating an enemy, but you're overcoming the city itself. Using the landscape of Dunwall to your advantage by climbing rooftops and lampposts feel like you're using it against itself. It's a place of no hope, and every inch of the environment lets you know this. I also find it really funny that a game set in a world as grim and as dark as this somehow manages to have more color and vibrance to it than most games of that era. It's based on Industrial Revolution era London, and yet it somehow manages to look this gorgeous. Assassin's Creed Syndicate came out 3 years after this, and Dishonored somehow catches the vibe so much better. And that game is actually set in the time period that Dishonored is only loosely based on. I say loosely based on because Dishonored definitely takes some liberty with its setting. Buildings and structures in Dunwall all have a sort of alien feel to them, like something diverged in the world of architecture to get us here. It's only almost like industrial era London. There's something ever so slightly off about it all. I think this uncanny vibe is enhanced by the character designs. Every character in Dishonored looks like the product of incest, especially the nobles. This makes perfect sense for a game based on England, as every character in this game is phrenologically Anglo-Saxon. You might call the characters ugly, and that's true, but the characters are a reflection of the city. Recently, I learned that several of the characters in the game are modeled after real-life mugshots, which I think emphasizes the point so perfectly. Dunwall is a gross, rotten city, and the people are an extension of that. Again, this is why I recommend playing with a stealthy approach. Take it slow. Allow yourself to really soak in the atmosphere before you tear people apart with a spring-loaded razor mine.
That's a wound.
The soundscape of Dishonored is subtly beautiful. The soundtrack was composed by Daniel Lick, one of, in my opinion, the most underrated composers of our time. An absolute master of the art of subtle atmospheric music. If you don't know the name, you probably at least know the music. The man wrote the main theme of Dexter, which is objectively the best part of that entire show. He also wrote the soundtrack for Silent Hill Downpour, which again, the only good part. Go listen to the Perp Walk theme right now. That's not a request, it's an order. Rest in peace, my man. As a fellow king, I tip my crown to you. Every song in the soundtrack to this game was designed specifically to make me uncomfortable. Nothing hits me harder than a creepy children's choir singing a darkened version of a classic sea shanty. This song was actually my ringtone for a long time, if that says anything about middle school me. I wish I could tell you it was just a phase, but royalty shouldn't lie. I used this soundtrack so much in my last D&D campaign that I'm pretty sure all of my players hate this game now just by association. Voice work is pretty damn good. The main cast has an absolute all-star lineup. Interestingly enough, Arcane went for movie actors instead of some of the more famous voice workers. Susan Sarandon plays the conniving, evil Granny Rags.
Granny Rags, let us in.
Michael Madsen is the rough, gravelly voice of Dowd.
You're a mystery, and I can't allow that.
Lena Headey plays Callista, the woman that I never fail to perv on in every single playthrough.
Rats, plague, and tyranny have a way of killing the mood.
Chloe Grace Moretz plays Emily.
Who are you? Why are you wearing that mask?
And once again, of course, my desperate search for Christopher Randolph is once again thwarted by a nerdy white guy that just sounds suspiciously like him.
Amazing, simply amazing. Destruction on a grand scale.
I became a scientist because I wanted to make robots like the ones in the Japanese animes.
Unfortunately, we won't be getting Pedro Pascal until Dishonored 2, but I will find absolutely any excuse to put his face in a video.
You're intriguing, and maybe more dangerous than most who darken my doorway.
Now, normally, I don't really like the idea of using traditional actors in the place of voice actors. Just because someone is good at physical acting doesn't necessarily mean they'll be a good voice actor. And there's a part of me that feels a very visceral dislike of using well-known faces for their voices in place of the people who dedicate their lives to the art of voice acting. That sort of thing usually feels like an annoying pull for publicity, but then again, I didn't even know Carrie Fisher was in this game, so maybe that's just me.
With sad hearts, the City Watch must announce the death of the Lord Regent, Hiram Burroughs.
And frankly, some of these characters' voices are so iconic to me now that I can't imagine any other voice for them. Michael Madsen was born to be Dowd. Either way, the cast really knocked it out of the park, so whining about it feels unnecessary.
Heart! The heart! The heart! This boy has no heart! Kill him!
Unfortunately, Dishonored is only almost a perfect video game. Nothing in this world is perfect except for my audience. Well, almost all of my audience. We live in a flawed world, and until I'm elected president, things will remain that way. The most common criticism I've heard about Dishonored is that a non-lethal playthrough is much harder than a good old-fashioned genocide run. Most of the powers in the game are geared towards killing people. In fact, there are only two real ways of knocking someone out, either by choking, which takes longer to do than stabbing, or by shooting them with sleep darts, which are far less common than normal bolts. On the other hand, there's a much greater number of ways to simply kill someone. One of the powers you get even instantly hides bodies by turning them into ash, but only if you kill them. A counter-argument that I've heard before is that playing pacifist is meant to be harder. The developers intended to make killing someone the easier choice. There's probably some sort of message in there that doing the right thing isn't as easy as doing what is, well, easier. Getting the good ending of the game is meant to be a challenge. Personally, I think both of these things can be true at the same time. The game is quite a bit more difficult when you're not just driving your sword into the neck of every human you see, and I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. I don't necessarily mind the challenge, I mind the lack of fun. The added difficulty of a pacifist run isn't the problem, it's the fact that the game just isn't as entertaining when you do so. Maybe it says something about humanity as a whole that carefully escorting a man to Snoozeville and gently tucking him into a nice warm bed just isn't as fun as setting him on fire in front of all of his friends. What do I look like, a psychologist? Some people take issue with the morality system itself. And while I do find morality systems in games to be hit or miss in general, I think this one's pretty good. My issues with morality systems come from when they don't really feel justified. Let me compare two games to show you what I mean. In Infamous 1, the morality system makes sense. Often the choices you make come from helping yourself and your friends versus helping the population as a whole. Stealing a bunch of airdropped food will actively improve the lives of you and the people you care most about, but it leaves others to starve. Letting other people have it means you'll go hungry, but the city does better because of it. This is a good morality system, because both options are a reasonable thing to do. One is objectively more humanitarian and good, but they're both understandable. In Infamous Second Son, your moral choices are much less nuanced. Do you want to be a good person, or do you just want to be an evil bastard and nuke your own town? There's no good reason in the game to be evil beyond, I want to be a piece of shit. This is a bad morality system. While I understand why people might think differently, the morality system of Dishonored safely falls in the former category. Desperately trying to save your daughter by any means necessary and killing the people that wronged you in the process is a pretty damn reasonable thing to want to do, given the circumstances. But the point is that your actions don't exist in a vacuum. The city is dying, and whether or not you might consider it justified to kill the ones who wronged you, adding more death to the equation isn't the answer. Maybe killing the people trying to keep order in a city currently infested with the plague isn't actually the best choice if you're trying to save the city. Whether or not those people actually deserve it. It's not about right or wrong, it's about putting the needs of the people before your own. As a side note, something that I do love, because even in the criticism section of this game I can't help but shower it with love, is the non-lethal methods of eliminating targets. You really fuck some of these guys up. The non-lethal method of eliminating the High Overseer is by branding him with a mark that will force him to live out the rest of his days in squalor, completely shunned by society. You're not really showing anyone mercy here, you're just not getting your hands dirty. I guess you could say you're dishonoring them. Another thing that I don't care for much is the silent protagonist. In a game absolutely oozing with personality, it's a major disappointment that the main character has none beyond the tiniest glimpses. This is something they fixed in the second game, where they got the legendary Steven goddamn Russell to voice him.
A smart man wouldn't be standing in my way.
but it feels like a missed opportunity for this game. I really wish there had been just a little bit more time to develop him and his relationship with Jessamine and Emily before the game kicks off. I know Corvo being Emily's father is supposed to be something that the player discovers toward the end, but come on, show him being a dad for a little bit. This is something I'm always saying. Give us more cool dad moments in video games. Corvo has the potential to be one of the best dads out there, up there with the greats. Give us some dad action before we have to do the bad action. That's all I'm saying.
What in heaven's name are you talking about?
This is normally where I would put the negative reviews of the game and say some sort of witty comeback to epically destroy their arguments with facts and logic, but I honest to God can't find any. This game has an overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam, and all of the negative reviews consist of people talking about the port quality or just saying that it wasn't for them. I can't argue against that. Not even the Google reviews can help me. There isn't a single review written for this game below 4 stars, which is pretty telling on just how good this game is, but it does make my job a lot harder. Thanks a lot. The world of Dishonored has so much potential and beauty to it, as something almost wholly original and new, and I really hope that after Blade releases, Arcane gives us another look at it. I know technically Deathloop is part of the Dishonored world, but I miss Dunwall and the Isles. There have been recent leaks and vague rumors of a Dishonored 3, and honestly that would just make my day to see. Who knows? Either way, Dishonored stands as one of the great pillars of video games. One of the unfortunately rare pieces of evidence that video games are an actual art form worthy of consideration. In an endless churning sea of battle passes and Ubisoft games, it feels good knowing that there's always a beacon in the distance that says, yes, video games can be good. And that's what Dishonored is. A good video game. A work of art. And a testament to the fact that a great work can rise above the ocean of mediocrity that surrounds it. Dishonored came out 12 years ago, but if it came out today, I would love it just as much. I'm not gonna be the guy that says all modern video games are trash, because that's not true. I just don't know if there are any games in recent memory that I'll be coming back to in the same way that I do with this game. It's nice to have something that I can look at and say, I love this, and I will always love this. And I think that's the best way to describe how I feel about Dishonored. Thank you all for watching. It really does mean the world to me. I decided I wanted to change the format up a little bit for this video, being a retrospective and all, so let me know what you all think. Sorry if I wasn't as funny as my usual videos, but it's hard to be funny when you're busy gushing about something you truly love. I hope you all liked it anyway. If you do decide to subscribe, maybe also consider joining our new official Discord group. I have no idea what I'm doing with it, but we do have a whopping total of 4 members now, so if you'd like to join us, we'd love to have you. Link will be in the description. Thanks again for watching, gang. Until next time, one love, see ya.